Hello, hello, hello. Welcome back, everybody. For those of you new joining, my name is Penny. I am a newly retired expat, and I have been working my way to the UK getting my citizenship. This channel basically is about what it took to get me here, all the hidden fees nobody told me about, things I needed to do to prepare, costs to the best of my recollection. I want to be upfront and let you guys know, for anybody out there who's planning on becoming a UK citizen, or even if it's not a UK citizen, just a citizen of a different country, travel expenses. From there, my downsizing, I'm going to get into that. Along with the downsizing, I do plan on taking some European trips, which I hope to bring you guys along with me, just exploring my new journey, my second half of my life. Was it worth it to retire and do this? Anyhow, so I hope you don't mind. I have a trusty notebook where I kind of have notes on things that I went through and rough estimate of cost of what it took. So around 2013, my daughter and I started talking about moving. If my mother had passed away, she wanted to live on this side of the world to be closer to her only other sibling. Anyhow, so in 2013, I reached out to a company who actually explored my heritage, because my daughter was looking at teaching in the UK. So I knew, my grandmother being from the UK and my mother being British, that I quite possibly could qualify that way for becoming a British citizen. So I reached out to the company. It had a form for me to fill out. I filled out the form. They got back with me, and I was 95 to 99% positive to where I could become a British citizen through heritage. So I hired them. Pardon my readers here. Once I got that quota back, I hired them, and let's see. They were, well, before I get into that, I had to apply for a ETA visa. So I wanted to get all that stuff ahead of schedule. ETA visa so I could travel and everything. So finally, it was May 2023 when I ordered a free status trait service, and that was the one to see if I qualified. Again, I was 95 to 99% a match to go ahead and do it. So the company that I hired, which I don't want to give their name. If anybody is interested, I'll give it. The company I hired, they were in pounds. It was $22.50, which came to $3,012.49. Then I had an 80-pound fee on top of that. It was a government fee, which was $107 US. All right. So once I hired them, they sent me the paperwork. It was basically a background check. I had to fill out questions like, have I been in a bankruptcy before? Have I been to jail? Everything you can imagine, just like applying for a job. So once that was all done, and then I passed that, then they started requiring documentations for me to actually see if I qualified. Now, mind you, if you start the process and pay them and it doesn't work out, you get so much money back. So I continued. Unfortunately, one of the things they asked for, or two of them, was a birth certificate of my mother, which, even though my grandmother was from Manchester, my mother was born in Karachi, and at that time, she did not have a birth certificate. So I needed a birth certificate, so that was going to be fun. I had to hire someone to look. Luckily, the initial was free, and if they found something, then I was charged a fee. So that was from her birth certificate, would be 1927. Then I had to have a birth certificate from my grandmother from 1899, which never seen, never knew if she had one or anything else. So again, I needed to hire a separate person because the first one was going through India for my mother, and the second one was going through the UK for my grandmother. They did ask about a grandfather, but I knew nothing about my grandfather, so that didn't even come into play for me. Anyhow, so one of them, the one from India, it was 1,500 rupees or SAR, which came to 91 American dollars. And then the British Library was 18 pounds, which was basically $24 US dollars. So on that note, for my mother, they did not find, I am so sorry, I keep moving the table and the tripod's moving. For my mother, they did not find a birth certificate because she actually did not have one. What they did have was a baptismal entry. So they certified the baptismal entry, and I could use that as a birth certificate. They did, however, find something, luckily, on my grandmother, and I managed to get a hold of that. Once I had those documents, I had to send them to the company that was helping me out. So when you hire them, granted, you still have to do legwork on your own, but then they'll fill out the initial or the main forms and then send them off to get your citizenship. So with that being said, I got all of that. Then is when I actually applied for the ETA visa. Then I had to purchase, well, before I found out that everything I had finally was okay. Like I said, it was a lot of legwork. With that, I found a misspelling on my U.S. passport, so I had to have that redone. And then my birth certificate, which I never even noticed before, it has to contain your parents' names on it. I was actually born in Luxembourg, and it did not have my parents' names on it, but tucked away, a little piece of paper that I never opened in files that I had happened to be a document about yay big, and it contained my parents and talked about my birth certificate, and it was all on that little piece of paper, so they accepted that. Once I knew it was a go, and now the main thing was I was waiting on my daughter to possibly get a job. She landed a job, so once she did that, I retired from work. I was already in the process of doing this because I knew it would take a while. Again, I started it May of 2023. So now we are into August of 2025. So she heard from them in, I believe it was July of 2025, wanting her to start the new year in August of 2025. So I really didn't have any time. So I had to buy travel insurance. That was $567 a month. And what that's for is I had to have insurance to cover me, because when you're in these countries, you have to be covered. They don't want you to mooch off of their government funding, which is understandable. Then I found out that while she could be here because she was on a work visa, I could not be here. I could visit 6 months out of the year, but I could not live here, because if I lived here or stayed with her, it would look like I was living here, and it would null and void all my paperwork. Because if you're not already living here, I started the process in the States, then I can't just come here and live and continue it. So I had to go somewhere else. I went to Berlin, which a total of, I stayed, I think, roughly 2 months while this paperwork was going on. And actually from Berlin, I took up it's kind of a, not really a citizenship, but I could work there. I got a visa for Germany, and I was staying in a hotel, and oh my goodness, let's see, hotel from all that time, apparently I didn't put it down, but it was roughly $4,000, my stay. So I could come back and visit my daughter, which I did, and I ended up coming back in I came back in, let's see, April, May. I came back in March of this year, 2026. I was staying with her, and I got the email saying that I could actually, my appointment was scheduled, and I could go do my swearing in, which had to be in the American Embassy in Germany. It could not be done in the UK. So I flew back to Germany, and in April, I got to swear to the king. After I got my certificate naming me as a UK citizen, I applied for my passport. I got my passport in May. And then as soon as I got my passport, I booked my flight. And here I am in the UK. So I stayed with her for May, June, July, like a month, because I had to now look for a place. Places are not easy to find. If you're ever here or have ever lived here, they are just not easy to come by. You also have to prove things about yourself, and even though I was a citizen, I should be able to just rent, but here you have to prove your net worth, everything about you. Yes, my document did help, but again, I had to prove that whatever I was looking at, I had however many times the rent, even though I was retired and I could afford it, you still had to be, I think it was 3 times. And so that became kind of whatever. Then we get down to, since we were in such a rush leaving, I didn't really have time to explore companies to move us. I reached out to one company, and I don't mind saying their name. It's International Van Lines. Whoever I talked to seemed very nice at the beginning. Self-explanatory. I mean, everything seemed to be going great. I was told that it would be $15,000 to move my daughter and myself. We donated a bunch of stuff, but apparently we didn't give away enough because it took up supposedly a 20-foot container. I don't know. I never saw the ending of it because they came, got our stuff. It went to a warehouse until the ship docked, and then they loaded it. I didn't get to see any of that. But the part that gets me, and I would be very careful about, is the fact that I started to pack my stuff. I was bubble wrapping glass and whatever. Then I was told to not pack. If I pack, I would not be insured. So naturally, I'm not going to pack because I want my stuff insured. Well, apparently there was a little bitty thing in the document that was not seen. But anyhow, they told me if I didn't pack, I would be covered. So I didn't pack. They came out. Big mistake. I mean, I went to go get the guys some lunch. When I came back, things I told them don't go, they disappeared. So apparently they packed them. Things I said I want to go, they didn't seem to make it. So I wasn't happy about that. My sister had come over and was kind of watching them, and glass, that very expensive stuff that I had that should have been wrapped, they were just basically throwing in boxes. Then they were putting heavy boxes on top of the glass. They were also putting things in that were taller than the box and then setting something on top of that. So I don't know how things look right now because it's sitting in storage. Yes, it's been a year, but I have just been back a month and we have to try and go through it. Also, I had to wait until I could get a place before I could do anything, and now I have to figure out someone to move it, and will I have the space, because you're talking about 1800 square feet down to less than 600. So it's kind of like moving in a tiny home in the States, but anyhow, it is what it is. So I'm trying to make do with that. So with them, again, it was supposed to be 15,000 something. Then I get an email that it reached port, and another 600 and some odd dollars was due before they'd release it. Was never told about that. Then there was another, let's see. Oh, then there were port fees that came up to $4,000 that I was told all of this was included. They take care of that. And that's what my paperwork was that I initiated from the States and everything else. So that was kind of lied to me about. Then I got talking about insurance to them. Well, first I talked about being charged for it sitting there waiting for us to get a storage. And in the paperwork, it said they would hold it, I think, 2 weeks before you were charged. They charged without holding it. So I had to pay for that before they would actually release it, or I wouldn't have paid it. Then on top of that, I talked about, well, what if anything's broken because I can't go through it? And they said I wasn't covered because I did not buy the insurance. Well, that was not told me at the beginning. And that was that little bitty thing that I did not see in the paperwork, because they just said, if I don't pack it myself, I am covered by insurance. So there's that. Pay attention to everything. I'm sure a lot slipped by me just because we were in a hurry. We were on a time crunch. It went quicker than it was supposed to. I thought we'd have more time, but she jumped on that job as soon as she could get it. And I didn't want to stay behind and come later because I figured she could have the help with a child and everything else. So on that note, I'm going to leave you guys with that. If you have any questions, I'll be glad to answer, or the company that I use for my documents. Like I said, I just don't really like to throw names out there without them knowing it. The movers, I don't care about because they did me so wrong. But the other company, I want to be a little respectable on that one. I will be making another video at some point. I would like to show you my flat. It is a disaster, and I might show it to you that way. I don't have my sofa yet. I actually have a blow-up bed in my so-called living area, which basically touches my kitchen. I mean, there is not much to it, and I've got to figure it all out. Even grocery shopping, I'm going to be getting into that because there is a lot of stuff that I used in the States that you cannot find here. And if you do find things that might have cost $2 in the States, could be anywhere from $30 to $50 for that one item, just because it has to be shipped over. And yeah, so I am trying to learn how to tweak things, how to make my own certain spices, replicate things. So I'll be getting into that. Going to be taking a trip to Scotland soon. Hopefully I will get some of that footage in there. Yeah. So anyhow, on that note, I'm going to leave you with that. And again, sorry for looking down. I had my notes. I couldn't remember all of this by heart, and I did want to give you some insight as to what I've been through. Again, I am a citizen now. I do have my UK passport, so I now hold a dual citizenship. It was a long road. Was it worth it? Time will tell. Right now, I'm happy. But time will tell, because I am still trying to get used to things here, and yeah, one step at a time. So on that note, until next time, guys, thank you for being here. Again, if you have any questions or if you have any input that might help me, I am open for anything. I am here for you to try and help you, and I am definitely always open for input. So please feel free. So I will talk to you later. Thank you. And until next time, I love you guys.